everyone, and welcome to another edition of VAR and Espresso. Joining me today, as ever, is the indomitable Leo. Leo, how are you today?
I'm fine. Saddened by the news of Jota's passing. So, yeah, it's a strange day. But
for all those who haven't seen the news, yes, the Liverpool striker Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva have died in a car crash in Zaragoza, in Spain. Obviously, this is an incredible shock to everybody in the Portuguese national squads, within Spain, within England. Yeah, it's tragic news, isn't it, Leo?
Yeah, it is, and it's terrible, and it's to know that a month ago he was celebrating his Liverpool title. His Portugal title with the Nations League. He got married 5 days ago, and yeah, that's terrible. And I can only think about their parents because they were brothers, and now their parents lost their two sons. And yeah, it's a tragic news.
Yeah, as you said, we said this before the episode started. How it's a bit of a cliche to say, sort of, it puts life in perspective, but he was genuinely in such an incredible moment over the course, like I say, of 2 months, winning the Premier League with Liverpool, being part of the Nations League winnings team with Portugal, and yeah, getting married very, very recently. He also has 3 children that he leaves behind with his wife. Yeah, just an incredible tragedy. Did you watch much of Diogo Jota? Because obviously you never played in the French league, but
I watched him at Liverpool. For me, it was, I will not say a great player. He was a very good player. His capacity to play in a team full of stars, because he wasn't the big star at Liverpool, but yeah, he always found a way to deliver. He was a great goal scorer in the box. He was really precious. Really,
he's very clinical.
Yeah, he's clinical. He had a very good IQ, football IQ, when he was moving on the field. Yeah, that's quite sad to be honest.
Yeah, it was. He was. I think it was at Wolverhampton Wanderers when people saw just how good he could be, and I think Liverpool paid £45 million for him. And I think it's one of those players where potentially he could have been regarded among the world's most coveted players, but he also had a series of persistent injuries, which meant that he never played more than 25 games a season. But when he did play, he was electric, and he scored, and he could score from anywhere, and he could play across the entire front three. And yeah, an incredibly talented footballer, and by all accounts, an incredibly good man. Yeah, very sad news. We shall go on to other subjects. First of all, actual football that happened yesterday, because of course the Club World Cup has taken a couple of days pause as we reach the quarterfinals. We'll do a big preview of that tomorrow. But the Women's European Championship started yesterday, and we had a couple of very good matches. Leo, did you watch them at all?
I watched the first half between Switzerland and Norway. So I missed the big part in the second. But have you watched the 2 games of the day?
Yes, in titles. So for those who don't know, I have just we recently published my preview for the Women's European Championship, which is up on Sports Talk United, and yes, I'm going to be doing match reports every single day, and obviously I've got the ones for this coming up. Bit delayed because my wife got back from Valencia yesterday and I had to go pick her up from the airport. So I'm a few hours behind in regards to work. But yeah, yes. So throughout the tournament, I'll be publishing match reports. I'll start with the second game. I mentioned yesterday that the first game was not the hosts, but it's becoming more of a thing where they get the evening slot sort of like maximize attendance. It was a near sellout crowd, actually, 34,000 between Switzerland and Norway. Now, in my preview, I did mention that Group A is the one where anybody can win, essentially. So you've got Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Switzerland, and they are 26th, 14th, 16th, and 23rd in the world. So a very even spread. Although I did say in the preview, Norway have on paper, they've got some of the best attackers and creative players around. You've got Graham Hansen, a winger for Barcelona. You've got Hegerberg, former winner of the Ballon d'Or Feminine at Lyon. You've got, was it Royston at Chelsea? You've got Marnham at Arsenal. So they're like littered with incredible talent. But they struggle with a tactical sort of identity. So I was quite surprised that actually throughout this game, Switzerland were the dominant team, despite being lower in the world rankings, despite not really having any of these big names. But it was actually Switzerland who took the lead. Which is quite nice, getting them to score in their first match in their home tournaments, because of course the tournament is in Switzerland. But recent scoring very nicely from the left after Norway failed to clear a corner. What you watching the highlights? What were your impressions? Because obviously I watched the entire game and made little notes. But what was your impression watching the highlights regarding Switzerland?
Yeah, I think to be honest, I never saw a Switzerland game before. In my opinion, Norway seemed better, and especially on individualities. I know Ada Hegerberg from Lyon. As a Lyon fan, she wrote history with the club, and what I think is that it was kind of balanced during the first half. Even Switzerland were kind of better, to be honest. They scored by reason, if I'm not mistaken, and then Norway, they just scored their 2 goals in 4 or 5 minutes. So it was. Can it be considered like an upset or a real performance for Norway?
Well, it's not so much an upset, like I say, because Norway are ahead of them in the world rankings. They do have these top tier players and more of them. What was quite interesting, so Switzerland do have a couple of impressive players. A player on the right, Reuteler, who was sort of coming in off like a right-sided forward that was peeling off to the wing. She was really impressive, and a lot of Switzerland's good play came through her. But actually, I was going to talk about Volti, who is like the holding midfielder for Arsenal. In the first half, she dictated play brilliantly. Everything, like being able to sort of sit in that hole and spray passes left and right. And actually, the goal came from her, a gorgeous through ball, sort of feigning a pass to the left wing and actually playing through between the fullback and the centre back, and that allowed Reason to sort of run down the left wing, cut inside. It was her cross that was then sort of blocked by Norway, but they failed to clear it, and so when the ball came back to her, she finished from about 12, 14 yards out in off the post. So there were a couple of players for Switzerland who really stood up and dominated the game, but the real surprise was the fact that Switzerland were completely the dominant team. They weren't pressing from the front as such, but when they were attacking and they lost the ball, they then pressed to win it back immediately, as opposed to pressing all over the pitch.
Okay.
But perhaps with the crowd behind them as well, it sort of raised their level. But they were so impressive. And if you look at the stats alone, they had over 54% possession. They had 17 shots to Norway's 8. They had 7 shots on target to Norway's 3. There was one in particular, I think it was Reuteler as well, which forced a really good save from the Norwegian goalkeeper, cutting it off the right, shooting from the edge of the box, going into the far corner, with the keeper just getting down in time. It was a very, very good save. But as you say, Norway had this period in the second half where they just took control, and that can happen with top quality teams. So they had a corner in the 50. I thought I wrote it down. I think the 54th minute. in a set piece, Norway do score a lot of goals from set pieces, and Hegerberg, as well as being a top quality striker, is very tall, so that gives a natural advantage. So she headed in from about 5 yards from the corner. And then only a few minutes later, there was actually a really lovely move. I wrote this down, actually, because there was a move from Norway, the second goal, which used nearly every single member of their team apart from the right winger, I think it was. So it started with the goalkeeper, who clipped it out to the left back, passed it inside to the attacking midfielder, who had dropped deep, who passed it back down to a defensive midfielder. So passing, this lovely passing maneuver between the halfway line and their defence, and then a lovely ball over the top from the centre back allowed. It wasn't Hansen. I think Hansen's right, but yeah, it allowed the left winger to charge forwards. And as they put a cross in, Hegerberg was completely unmarked in the middle, and then there was this desperate lunge from Steely, the Swiss defender, but she diverted it into her own net, sadly. But that all came from a brilliant passing move in Norway's own half, and it was basically really the only singular moment of quality from Norway.
But from what I've seen, it was a game of ups and downs because. What do you think about the Norway's penalty? I think it was quite soft, to be honest.
Well, I was going to say that as well. So obviously, like I say, goal in the 54th minute, second goal in the 58th minute, and then I think it was the 61st, 62nd. 68th. Sorry. So like in this period of
between the 60
in 15
and the
minutes,
7th,
Norway took control of the match, and it was another set piece. I will say that I think it was Reutler who conceded the penalty. She was nowhere near heading the ball, and her hand was in front of the Norwegian player's face. So like that is a completely unnatural position, and it removes the opportunity to have it. So it was always going to be a penalty. But Hegerberg missed. It was a poor connection. Then it went up the side of the wide of the left-hand post. But then immediately a goal kick played forward, headed on. Switzerland run down the left, and they win a penalty of their own, which was this huge moment. Now that I thought was a soft penalty, in which there was barely any contact. But then, of course, it was irrelevant because there was a minor offside in the build-up. Yeah. But then after that, Switzerland sensed the shift of momentum. But it does speak volume about momentum, right? So the fact that Norway managed to take control in a 15-minute period, had they scored the penalty, that's the game won. They they nicely controlled, play out the rest of the game, but they missed it. And Switzerland immediately took their chance, immediately put the pressure, and, theoretically, got something out of it. But obviously, the penalty didn't happen. But for the rest of the match, Switzerland were the ones pressing forward. They forced another couple of really good saves. There was a goal line block as well in the 89th minute, sorry. Yes, I think even though Switzerland lost, there was so much to like about that performance. And to be fair, Norway were always going to be the toughest team in the group. So it's a shame they didn't get a point out of it, which they easily deserved at least 1 point. But that's a lot of confidence they can bring into the next game. Hello, Pedro. Thank you for joining us. Before we do anything else, would you like to say anything about Diogo Jota and Andre Silva before anything else?
Yes, please. Good morning, my guys. Today we wake up in shock because they told that Diogo Jota and his brother died in a car accident, and the Portuguese media immediately asked to the Spanish authorities to confirm the deaths and to confirm the identities, and they said yes, it's confirmed. It was an accident in a highway near Zaragoza, in the north of Spain, and in the night, and the car got fire. That's the reason why it was impossible to make any rescue. So both dies. The Diogo Jota and his younger brother, who also played, but in Penafiel in the second division of Portugal. What I say about this type of situation is, why take unnecessary risks? Why players who are young, they are on holidays, they are millionaires. why driving international highways during the night to, I don't know if it is to the intention. People talk they want to travel to England. I don't believe a player like him it was driving from Spain to England. I think probably they have friends or family in Spain. I don't know. I don't know, but there is no reason for very well paid professional players to take this kind of risks.
Well, I mean, I would probably say that in sort of to counter that, I would say that people taking road trips is a very common thing, and that's usually in very average cars. If someone gave me the opportunity to drive, I think they reported that it was they were in his Lamborghini and the tire blew up as he was overtaking a car,
Yes.
and it careered off the road.
Yes.
Which is obviously a freakish occurrence. But again, like the act of actually doing these long distance drives in nice cars is a fairly common thing, and it's quite an enjoyable thing. Especially, I mean, you know, you can imagine it with, you know, he was with his brother, and yeah, it may have just been something that they wanted to do together. I don't think that I mean, you can't really compare it to say like when Manuel Neuer broke his leg skiing. Like skiing is actively a dangerous sport. You know, people get injured doing that all the time, and that seems foolish. Like he missed a year of his entire career because he broke his leg skiing. Whereas driving is a very common thing. I see what you mean about the long distance, but I mean, essentially, it's as safe as we make it and it's as dangerous as we make it. So assuming there's no reason to believe he was, nothing to suggest he was under the influence, nothing to suggest he was speeding, nothing of the kind, just that the tire blew out in his car is all we know. It's just an accident.
Yeah,
It's an accident, but it's not the first time. I don't know if you remember a player who played in Benfica and also in Seville, make a long career in Swiss with José António Reis.
Yeah, right.
Right.
From Sevilla, yeah.
From Seville, what happens? In the end of his career, he couldn't play in La Liga, so he accepted to play in Extremadura, who is a second league club near Badajoz. Badajoz is a city close to the Portuguese border, and he plays in the weekend, and then he comes to drive fast from Badajoz to the south of Spain when he has family, and also was the same thing. A tire blow, car got fire, and everybody in the car died. It's like you said, it's dangerous. It's dangerous to make long trips in the cars. Accidents can happen. We don't have, of course, or nothing. It's just a terrible. It's just a terrible tragedy that happens.
Well, I think what I wanted to highlight was that it wasn't, while unnecessary, it wasn't irresponsible.
Just to finish my commentary is that the Portuguese Federation asked for a minute of silence in the Women's European match between Spain and Portugal today.
Yeah, saw that. Yeah, I imagine that's going to be happening a lot coming up because obviously, you would think that, for example, in Liverpool's pre-season matches, when they happen in Liverpool's first match of the Premier League season, there'll be a moment's respect. You can foresee this happening because, strangely, because it is actually the off-season for him, because Liverpool aren't in the Club World Cup. This is downtime. This is off-season, which is strange because we are still talking about a tournament. But officially, yes. Today, Portugal versus Spain, the minute silence. Rightly so. Speaking of Portugal, Spain, Pedro, did you want to say anything about the Women's European Championship, the matches yesterday? We've just analysed Switzerland and Norway. But anything? Did you watch them? Did you see the highlights?
No, I did not.
Fair enough.
To be honest.
Fair enough.
No. Just to tell you, do you know where I'm now? I just ran away to the rooftop of my my apartment to be quiet because, as I told you guys, I'm on holidays. So what I do, I go to the beach in the morning and then try to come to the show with you guys. I'm following the clubs, the World Cup tournament. So yesterday it was day off, no games. I just checked the results and I checked the schedule for today. I know that Portugal is playing, in my opinion, with the best women's national team in the world, who is Spanish. Um, and I hope that Portugal gives fight, because I think last game Portuguese lost like 4 or 5 goals difference, something like that. But we have you then. We have you then. You have you then. You are a top professional to follow this tournament. But I will be aware today. I will be aware today to properly can comment the games. Uh,
But Pedro,
and
you're right to enjoy your holidays.
Yes, very much so. I
yeah,
wish I
yeah.
could do the same.
It's important.
Yeah. Yes. So, yeah. I mean, for context, as Pedro was saying, so I've watched women's football since about 2003. So it is something I've watched for a long time. So yeah, more than happy to cover it. I just quickly before we move on. So Iceland against Finland yesterday. This may not seem like much of a surprise. A lot of people won't know the context, but Iceland are actually the highest ranked team in that group, ahead of Norway. They were 14th in the world, Iceland, but they've really sort of their form has really nosedived recently. I think I'm right in saying, yeah, they before their last match before the tournament was a 3-1 friendly win against Serbia, but before then they hadn't won in 9 matches, drawing 5 and losing 4. So Iceland, despite being theoretically the best team in the group, their confidence is really low. Their form is dropped, which gives the opportunity to everybody else in the group who are lower than them in the rankings. Yeah. So sorry.
I read this morning that Finland secured their first victory at a Women's European Championship in 16 years.
Yeah, 2009 was their last one. Well, the thing is, Finland used to have a good team, or rather, they had a couple of top quality players that were playing at high levels, they've reached the semi-final before in the European Championship back in 2005. So yeah, they have been contenders in the past, but they've not left the group stage since 2009. So 2009, when they had that last win, they've always exited at the group stage whenever they've reached the championship. So it has been a long time coming. But what an opportunity now! If they get another victory in their last 2 games, they're almost guaranteed a place in the next round. And yeah, incredible opportunity. I would point out that this, even though Finland were the better team, there was not too much action in the first half. But in the second half, the Icelandic defender Antonsdottir, she got 2 yellow cards in quite quick succession. I think they were 7 minutes apart, both tackles. The second one could have been a straight red. I mean, maybe not, but definitely not a yellow. Yeah, it was a stamp. But obviously that then gave Finland more free reign, and they've been threatening. They have who was it down their left? It was Kosoda. Kosoda was a threat down the left for Finland throughout the game. Everything good came through her, and she scored a lovely finish. Keeper might have done better, but yeah, sort of cutting in from the left hand side, curling into the top right corner. Really, really nice. But what was really strange was that then Finland, despite having a player extra, despite having the lead, despite having momentum, they then completely stopped. Iceland made a couple of changes, but then started pressing for Finland. And it did it really well. And Finland just couldn't get out of their own half, despite the fact they had another player, which seemed very strange for me. It seemed like missing a tactical idea, right? Finding that, there's the spare player, work the ball to her. But yeah, so Iceland did so well. They almost forced an equaliser. They had a couple of opportunities in stoppage time. But Finland held on for the win. And yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, so Finland second in the group behind Norway. I forget who plays each other next. I'll do this in the match report. I'll put all this when we publish the match report later about who their next fixtures are. But like I say, Norway, you would expect to get out of this group with the quality they have, but Finland, fantastic opportunity. I'm really looking forward to Finland against Switzerland when that happens, because that could be the winner takes all. But also just a little quick word before we move on the fact that we've only had 2 matches in Switzerland so far, but they've both been near capacity. So like I say, Switzerland against Norway, 34,000, which you'd expect, home tournament. But I wanted to talk about the good idea of having smaller stadiums. So there were 7,668 in the Iceland-Finland game, but there was only a capacity of 8,500, I think, in this stadium, or very similar. Yeah. And I wanted to compare that to, say, the FIFA Club World Cup, because before the tournament, Infantino was heavily advised, I think that the terminology was, to go for smaller, specific football stadiums that hold between 20 and 30,000, rather than go for the big stadiums. And he insisted on the big stadiums for the vast majority of them. I was going to say, in your two's opinion, this is a big way of getting around this, but in your 2 opinions, Leo, we'll start with you. Do you think that was a mistake going into the big stadiums, considering even though you could sell 40 odd thousand, it was half empty, as opposed to selling out a 25, 30,000 seater?
I think they expected a lot more spectators, of course. I don't know if you have seen the news that during PSG versus Inter Miami, so who was played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. I think it's 74,000 seats. FIFA gave a ticket for free to just make the stade not empty. And yeah, I was watching highlights from the 2 games, Women's Euro Championships games, and I thought it was a great thing to see packed stadiums. I have the image of the Icelandic supporters. They were numerous, and it's quite good, even if Switzerland doesn't have as many big stadiums as United States, of course. But yeah, you have to. It shows that FIFA didn't work well on the preparation of its tournament, because when you have, I don't know, you know that a Real Madrid game will maybe bring 60 or 70 people, but yeah, and it's not disrespect for this team, but for Ulsan, for Mamelodi, for I don't know what team can I talk about. I don't know, but yeah,
Esperance Tunis.
Esperance Tunis, yeah. But because of the distance of the fan base, you should think about having a little attendance, so a little stadium, sorry, maybe 13, 14 seats is quite. I think players, manager, because Mariska talked about that. I think players would prefer to play in a full 13,000 stadiums packed than a 60,000 stadium with only 10,000 fans, because yeah, it reminds me of a dramatic period of football, which was during the coronavirus. Of
course, yeah.
And it was quite different to watch football in this atmosphere. It was boring. It was so yeah. Just you just have to prepare your tournament well, and it's not only the quality of football. It's not only the weather. It's also the fans, because without fans, football is nothing.
Pedro, do you want to voice any opinion on this? But I mean, obviously, you cover a lot of Portuguese teams, and I think about, say, like Madeira, or like the island teams.
I tell you my opinion. In the FIFA Clubs World Cup, they are using American football stadiums. Okay, big stadiums. with a capability for 60,000, 70,000. Okay, they are using these stadiums, and in some games, of course, if the attendance is it's not high, you see at least 50% of the stadium empty. Okay, and a match without fans is like a good steak without salt. It's no funny.
That's a really good. I can understand that. Okay, yeah.
Now the European Humans Championship in Switzerland. There are stadiums with very different capabilities. For example, Portugal plays today in Spain in Bern. The capability is 32,000. Okay, it's very different. In the game yesterday between Finland and Iceland, it was a small stadium. Uh, about 10,000 persons. So it's good. It's good when it's 7 or 8,000 assisting the match, but the stadium looks full, and it's good for the show. But it's different situation because in Switzerland they could choose different stadiums with different capabilities to fulfill the tournament. In the World Cup, they pick what they had. It was the American football stadiums. Uh, they changed the grass. They changed the grass from artificial turf to natural turf. Okay, to make the pitch with natural grass. But they couldn't handle with the capability of the stadiums. They used what they have. It's a total different situations. When I go to assist Benfica games in the Humans Champion League in Benfica, the average attendance is 40,000, as I told you yesterday. And they play in the same pitch of the men's in Stadio de Luz. So
But
there's public for the humans soccer or football. There's public. They just need to advertise the tournaments, to give opportunities to the humans to show up their potential, that people will show up to enjoy the matches.
yeah, the only thing we can say, and it's not because of FIFA's fault or not fully its fault, is that during the Club World Cup, so first they want to see to prepare the 2026 World Cup. So they have to see how the infrastructures and everything work with people. Then there is also the Gold Cup, which is played in the US, and the MLS. So they have to find issues, because for clubs playing MLS, they can't be playing outside from their home. I think I can think about FC Dallas, Cincinnati, who got little stadium compared to Mercedes-Benz Arena and MetLife stadiums. So yeah, they had to deal with everything. But yeah, it's kind of the fault. But we can explain why it's like that also.
Well, before we go on to the Gold Cup, which we are about to talk about, let's have a quick word for today's fixtures in the Women's European Championship. So Belgium will face Italy, which I think is quite an interesting one. Italy, if you're not aware, so unsurprisingly, most of Italy's squad play in the Serie A Feminine. But the player I highlighted was Ariana Caruso, who was on loan from Juventus to Bayern last season, and the signing's just been completed. She's more of a kind of creative, advanced midfielder. But there's something about her. She's 2-footed. She's got incredible passing range. She can drive forwards. Yes, if you're watching that match, one to keep an eye on. Belgium are 20th in the world. Italy, so obviously Spain are the favourites to go through this group. Italy are the strong favourites for second. But I would say Belgium have had a couple of surprising results recently. They actually beat England a couple of months ago, 3-2 in the Nations League. So they do have the possibility. They have the ability to play bigger than themselves. They seem to be quite a good unit. Again, no sort of big names, no sort of world-class players, but actually there's a real cohesion about them. But undeniably, the game to watch out for is Spain and Portugal. Spain, in my preview, when I list key players, I think I've just put everybody. So like just, just all of them. They are filled with talent in every position. Portugal are a fun one, though. So Portugal, again, they've had some surprising results recently. They've managed to draw against England, draw against Belgium. They've managed to, they beat Belgium rather, and draw against England. And they actually do have a couple of really exciting players. They've got Tatiana Pinto, who plays for Atletico Madrid. But the one I would, if you're watching it, to watch out for, Jessica Silva. She's this sort of silky, nippy striker at forward, and she's very clinical. So she plays for Gotham, I think, in the US. And the other one, assuming she plays, is Francisca Nazareth. I was going to ask Pedro, do you know anything about her? Because she plays for Barcelona. She's one of the hot prospects in Barcelona's youth team. Do you know anything about her, Pedro?
The Portuguese national team is improving a lot. In the last World Cup, we draw against the United States in the stage group.
Huge, yeah.
We made a huge game. This new generation of players, they have potential. They play abroad in very good clubs. They have talent, but it's a very difficult group for Portugal. It's a very difficult group.
Yeah.
I don't expect Portugal to even draw. Because, as you say, Spanish is good in all the sectors. They are they can move the ball very fast. They can play from both wings, make movements to put the ball in the box and shoot on target. But Portugal is improving. I promise one thing. Then I'm going to watch both matches today. So no beach in the afternoon to watch the matches. I will take a look from the. I will give more attention to the Portuguese match, to individual performance, and tomorrow I will tell you from the Portuguese side who, in my opinion, who were the players who show up more skills in the game.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I mean, I see why you say that about Portugal. Portugal are the lowest ranked team in the group. You would think that Italy and Belgium would fight it out for the second place. I mean, we all assume Spain will easily win this group, and there's no reason to think otherwise. But one thing about Portugal, like I say, they do have the ability to score goals, which is essential in any game. The fact that Jessica Silva is sort of like this live wire. But yeah, about Nazareth, I think she's 18, and she has played quite a few games for Barcelona already. I'm not sure she'll play in this game because she's more of a number 10. So I'm not sure Portugal would dare have a number 10 against Spain. But against the other teams, what you might see is a sort of like two defensive blocks, but Nazareth and Silva working in tandem, trying to get their players up the pitch. But like I say, she just offers that little bit of quality in a creative way. Let's go on to, pardon me, sorry, I just kicked my own camera. The Gold Cup has reached the final. In case you didn't see, so the semi-finals, the United States 2, Guatemala 1, and Mexico 1, Honduras 0. So surprise, surprise, it's the USA against Mexico. Before we go into discussing this, I'm going to ask you first, Leo, then I'll ask Pedro. Considering the Nations League now exists in North America, so CONCACAF Nations League, does that make the Gold Cup irrelevant, or is the Gold Cup already an existing Nations League? It seems like it's just the same competition.
Yeah, it's to me, it's kind of the same competition, but just the format of it is not the same, because one is a tournament and the other one is a 1 year or 2 year long competition. So it's the same thing, but I think for bigger team, Nations League is easier to win, and that the Gold Cup is the opportunity for smaller ones to maybe upset the biggest teams, as we saw with Guatemala beating Canada in the quarterfinal. Because on a single match, everything can happen.
Here's a question then, because I mean, this is a bit controversial to say this, but considering, say, Australia was so dominant in the Oceania competitions, they joined Asia, right? But they were a single dominant team, and New Zealand were second. Fairly obvious. Do you think there's a logic to Canada, US, and Mexico continuing, say, to join the Copa de America, considering South America only have 9 teams? You know, there are only 9 countries well, 9 competing in South American qualifying. Do you think it's sensible to try and incorporate Mexico, the United States, and Canada in the Copa America, and that way they're playing significantly stronger opposition, as opposed to what's happening now, which is they always seem to get to the final because they're the 3 biggest teams and they rarely lose against the other teams around them. Do you think that's a sensible idea? Do you think that would make sense? Again, using Australia as an example.
To Mexico, US, and Canada to be included in the Copa America and not in the Gold Cup, you mean?
Potentially, depending on the cycle, obviously. But like the Copa America was last year, and they were invited because the Copa America was played in the States. It seems to me like that could be a thing moving forward. First of all, to keep the Copa America fresh, because obviously with only such limited teams competing in it, it becomes a bit repetitive, as opposed to, say, European or African, where there are so many nations competing. But also from the point of view from the United States and Mexico and Canada, it seems that they can only get so good because they just rarely play competitive football against a high level competitor.
And if I'm not mistaken, last year in Copa America there were also Jamaica.
Yes, there were
teams. Panama, I think. And
yes, absolutely. There were several invites from Central and North America.
But it could make sense because we are always called United States America, right? So Copa America for me is Northern America, Central America, and South America. I don't know why it's just about South America. You should put, like the Euros or the Africa Cup of Nations, only the best teams in America, but not America, US, America, real America. So Brazil. Yeah, I think it would make more sense than just calling it a Copa America, but with only South American teams.
Because, I mean, part of the other reason, we mentioned this a few episodes ago about my concern about how the quality of the host nations for next year's World Cup, because they seem to have just sort of stunted. There are exciting talents in Canada. America does have a strong first team, but they just don't seem to be playing well at the minute. But they were in the Copa America last year and they were knocked out of the group stage. You know, so there's that thing of like, okay, step up against better opposition. I think they lost to Panama actually, and that's why they got out or something like that. But like, so the repeatedly putting yourself into those competitions, I think, is the way forward. Pedro, do you have any thoughts about that? Do you have any thoughts of the United States and Mexico and Canada sort of generally in regards to competition?
Let me back to the Human Championship, because you are an encyclopedia then. You know everything. You are a top level. You are a top level professional. I was checking. Obviously, Kika Nazaré is our best player. He moves from Benfica to Barcelona. She is young, lots of potential. Let me check their international career. But I just want to talk a thing that I forgot. I had a cousin who plays in the human national team, who was Carolina Mendes. He said goodbye in the last World Cup. It was their last tournament. And
Okay.
30 years ago, major of the cities didn't major of the Portuguese cities didn't have a humans professional club. No.
Mm.
So you need to move to, if you want to play at highest level, you need to move to Lisbon or to Porto or something like that to find a club. And things changed a lot in the last 25 years. Changed a lot.
Yeah.
Nowadays, most of the cities have humans soccer clubs with a professional organization.
Yeah.
If it
It's
is not totally professional, it's what we call semi-professional.
yeah.
It's a it's
What
it's a it's a similar structure. It's a similar structure that it means you can do this just for living.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, back in the day, I mean, only in the 90s, the only professional leagues you could go to where everybody either went to the States or Japan or Germany. And this is why the United States and Germany were so dominant in international competitions, because they are the only ones with a professional league. Yeah, shock horror. You think back to, so in England, this may surprise you, women's football used to be wildly popular in England. So back during the First World War, obviously so many people went to war, including a lot of footballers. But back home, what would happen would be like working people would still want to go and watch football, so they would get the women's version of the team, and they would just go and support the teams regardless. So you had supporters like sort of like 30, 40,000 people going to watch women's teams because there was no men's teams. And then women's football just became massively popular. And that meant at the end of the First World War, the FA, the English FA, was so worried about women's football being more popular than men's that they banned it. They just banned women playing football, and that ban stayed in place until the 70s. So, so this incredible thing of, yeah, it's so stupid. But then a lot of stupid things were banned and illegal back until the 70s. But yeah, so then you had this thing of like, oh, in the 70s, okay, you're allowed to play football now, but still not professional. It took until, what was it, 2005, 2007, something like that, before there was the first semi-professional team and stuff like this. It's incredible to think the change. I think it's like since 2016 when actual money was put into the women's game in regards to professionalizing it. And a big part of this, and I can only speak for England, but a big part of this might have been from the public's opinion following like the World Cup in 2015 in Canada. England got to, is it the semi-final? Yeah, semi-final. They got to the semi-final. They lost a last-minute goal against Japan. I think it was a deflected shot into the top corner. But England finished third, which was the best England performance since 1966 for men or women, right? So after that, there became this public thing of, oh yeah, women's football's a thing, fantastic, right? And shock and horror, more money's put into it. Then only Then only 6 years later, England win a tournament. They win the Euros, played it. So you're talking about these really short periods of time of investment. Oh, success, more investment. Oh, more success. And the acceleration and development of women's football has been fantastic. But it is kind of disgraceful it's taken this long.
Oh, Pedro, do you hear us?
Yeah. I was listened carefully. Okay. I agree. I agree with you.
But it's quite interesting because I didn't know what you just said about feminine football being so popular after the World War. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah. There also might well have been political reasons, because that was back in the age of the suffragettes. They wanted votes for women, and it may well be another attempt to sort of suppress women's rights. But yeah, it's the fact that it was banned for so long.
It's the same with the referees. Nowadays, you can have a human referee in any professional league.
Yeah.
Even they can ref the games for men's or humans if they have the credentials. They can do the job as good as the men's.
I think Stéphanie Frappard from France was the first woman to ref men's game,
Oh, that's a good one. I didn't know that.
and yeah, she's a Ligue 1 referee. She referred in the. I don't know if she did in the Champions League yet, but she had in the European competitions at Euro. I think she also went to the 2022 World Cup. Let me just check because I don't want to say something. But
That's
yeah,
all right.
you're right, Pedro.
While you're checking that, I thought I'd give you because go on.
Yeah, she refed in the Liga Europa, in the Champions League, the UEFA Super Cup, and the Feminine Champions League, as well as the Olympic Games, the World Cup in 2022. Yeah, she's kind of a precursor for women's refereeing.
Fantastic. Let's jump back to the Gold Cup because recently I've been giving you guys quiz questions at the end of our episodes. One of my things I said a few days ago about my worries about the United States, like they're consistently only defeating teams lower than them in the world rankings, and the second they play anyone near their level, they fall apart. Showing that in their last warm-up match before the tournament, they lost 4-0 to Switzerland, who are below them in the world rankings.
Yeah.
Right. So the United States path to the final. They beat Trinidad and Tobago. They beat Saudi Arabia. They beat Haiti. They drew with Costa Rica, but they went through on penalties. And they beat Guatemala. My question for you two is: which of those teams is the highest ranked in the world rankings? So of Trinidad and Tobago, Saudi Arabia, Haiti, Costa Rica, and Guatemala, which of those do you think were on paper the toughest team the United States had to face?
I would go with Saudi Arabia.
I'm going with Saudi Arabia. Pedro, do you want to guess?
Me, India with the Saudi Arabia. I think it's the most. Yes.
To be honest, I hesitate between Saudi Arabia and Costa Rica, but yeah, I will go with Saudi Arabia.
So the answers: Trinidad and Tobago, they are 100th in the world. Saudi Arabia, 58th. Haiti, 83. Costa Rica, 54. So Costa Rica was the answer, and Guatemala were 106. Yeah. So it speaks volumes about the hardest. I mean, obviously now USA have to face Mexico, who are actually below them in the rankings. So USA is 16th, Mexico is 17th. But it does speak volumes that essentially there's no real test in regards to that kind of level or prestige of player until you get to the semi-final and final. But if you think they had an easy path to the final, you should take a look at Mexico. Now, Mexico, they played the Dominican Republic, Suriname, Costa Rica, Saudi Arabia, and Honduras. Which of those was the hardest team that Mexico had to beat?
Costa Rica? I think Costa Rica, the 54th placed in the FIFA ranking.
Pedro, do you think anyone could have been higher than Costa Rica?
I had no clue. Which I know is when Portugal played in World Cup, the men's played in World Cup against Morocco, they said Portugal, it was a huge favorite because he's ranked so much higher than Morocco's, and we know how that's happened.
Yeah, that's fair. Although to be fair, Morocco do have world-class players. They have 3 or 4 really good players. You're absolutely right. It was still Costa Rica. Dominican Republic, 139th. Suriname, 137th. Costa Rica, 54th. Saudi Arabia, 58th. And Honduras, 75th. So again, like the path to the final has just been so easy. But in Mexico's defense, their last game for the tournament, they beat Turkey 1-0, and Turkey are 27th, who are still below them in the world rankings, but still. So that's what I thought I'd bring up. So yes, USA against Mexico, both of them have had incredibly easy paths to the final. Both of them have had to win No, it's just America have had to win a penalty shootout to get there. But hey ho, eh?
And just to have a word on yesterday's USA versus Guatemala, you should keep, for European who are not used to watch MLS, you should keep an eye on Diego Luna, who scored twice yesterday. I would not be surprised to see him come to Europe quickly. He won the MLS Young Player of the Season last season in 2024, and I think he made about 20 goals and assists in the season. Yeah, he's quite interesting. Very, he's fast. Yeah, he's quite young and good player to watch.
Pedro, anything you want to add before we close this one down today?
No, just to be focused to watch the matches and come back tomorrow well prepared to join you guys in the show.
Well, in that case, thank you so much for joining me, Pedro. Thank you so much for joining me, Leo.
Thank
see
you
tomorrow.
That is.
Well, you're very welcome. Yes, join us tomorrow. We'll have a big preview of the quarterfinals for the Club World Cup, as well as having recaps for the Women's European Championship. And then we will, like I say, look forward to Palmeiras versus Palmeiras versus Chelsea and Fluminense versus Al Hilal. Very, very exciting. Until then, thank you all so much for joining us. Make sure you go on our social medias, follow, subscribe, etc., etc. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day.
Goodbye, Pedro. Goodbye, Daniel.